So fireside chat with Regis. We've done this before. We're going to try it again. But I want to discuss this topic. Basically, I wanted to talk about burnout in Hearthstone. And the reason this topic came to mind is because of what you see behind me, right? Trump posted this comment in his most recent YouTube video. He did like 3 card reviews and then 1 gameplay video for Onyxia's Lair, a control warrior deck, which I was playing a controlled warrior deck while it got posted, so that stole my thunder, but I'm just happy to have Trump back, so I'll take it. So anyway, let's read through this and talk a little bit about like kind of burnout and what that means as a function of Hearthstone, because it's a problem for streamers, but I think it's also a problem for players. Like, you might be burned out on Hearthstone, and I want to talk about why, because I think there's some design stuff that might contribute to that and just player mentalities. And I think we can all come away from this in a happier place if we talk here a little bit about burnout. So anyway, let's read Trump's thoughts to kick this conversation off. So Trump here, going to just hide this in the replies so nobody notices. Didn't really want to make a theatrical "I quit Hearthstone" because that wouldn't be true. I enjoy reviewing new cards and playing decks that really are new and interesting. So yes, I will likely return during new releases, so it's not really a quit. Substantially less Hearthstone is definitely right, though. The reason isn't anything earth-shattering or deep. I've literally played Hearthstone for 8 years. It's been a great 8 years, and any game that captures your attention for that long is remarkable. But hey, I like change and playing other games, so well, that's the reason. I thought about doing a video of hi, the reason I'm playing less Hearthstone is because I played it for 8 years, so it doesn't capture my attention as much as it did, but I still plan on playing a little, but that basically sums it up. So you don't need a video for that. That's one sentence. And I think that's fair. I love Trump's approach here. That's awesome. And I think it's a really healthy, reasonable approach that is often very lacking when it comes to content creators separating from video games. What happens is we have beloved content creators like Trump, right? And he plays Hearthstone for 8 years. And usually when people distance themselves from the game that they've been playing for 8 years, they honestly kind of crap on it on the way out. This game sucks. It's so awful. It's not like it used to be. It's terrible. It feels so awful to play this all day. And, you know, it's like, I think it's some sort of dissonance they're overcoming, basically, where it's like, if I don't like this anymore, it must suck. I'm moving on to greener pastures, right? And that's always so unfortunate to me. And there's been some people in Hearthstone who did that too, which it frustrates me, right? Like, I think it's great to constructively talk about problems within the game. That's what I do. That's what we're going to do in this video a little bit. But I don't like that, like, crap on it on the way out kind of mentality. I've gotten really frustrated by that before. So I love Trump's approach here. He's not some, you know, woe is me or the world is ending or Hearthstone sucks. He's just recognizing that he's had his time with it, and it's going to take really novel experiences for him to have as good of a time as he used to. And I think that's really healthy and fair. I have to say, I think I have dodged this problem a little bit as a content creator because I don't play the game. I barely play Hearthstone. I stream like 15 hours a week on average. I mean, sometimes more for releases and stuff, right? But on a normal week, I'll stream about 5 days, about 3 hours a day. Sometimes less, sometimes more, but roughly 15, 20 hours a week, right? That's not that much really in the scheme of things, right? My job is editing YouTube videos and doing all the YouTube side of stuff. That's where I spend most of my time working. Streaming is a small chunk of that total commitment to the job. So for me, I don't play the game as much as most people. There's a lot of people who don't have a job playing Hearthstone who play the game way more than that. Like, some of you probably put in 20, 30 hours a week because you have fun playing Hearthstone. So I feel like I've dodged that like burnout and frustration. Like, obviously there are still moments that bring me down and metas that I don't like as much, but that overall sense of like getting tired with the game, I think it's easier for me to discover joy in Hearthstone more easily because I haven't played it as much. So I think I've been lucky that I've been able to do that. Some content creators don't really have that choice, because if you don't have like the YouTube side of it to support you and create income and have that be a big driver of revenue that feeds you and keeps you alive, then you have to stream all day because that's the only place you make any money. So there's a lot of streamers who have to stream like 8 hours a day because that's the only way they can convert their time into income, and that's how they feed themselves and put a roof over their head. So they're kind of in this like trap where they have to stream all day to stay in the job, but then streaming the game all day makes them hate the game all day, which probably hurts their viewership, hurts their long-term potential in the game as well. So it's this negative feedback loop basically that creates a lot of problems. But here's the thing. So I guess I recognize I'm super lucky there that I have the kind of YouTube versus Twitch balance that lets me be a little more free with my time and playing less. Insert clip of 5 minutes ago where I'm like, no, God. I guess the takeaway here is that I think this is not only something that applies to content creators, whatever that means. I think it applies to players too. I think a lot of people play too much Hearthstone. I think there are way too many folks out there who grind Hearthstone all day and they get sick of it. They burn out. I think a lot of us stopped playing Hearthstone because it was intrinsically fun and we enjoy it. And we started playing Hearthstone out of obligation and completionism and basically extrinsic motivators. Many people now play Hearthstone to complete their daily quests, to get their gold, to build up their collection, to advance on the rewards track, to complete achievements. And they stop playing it because it's fun. And that's not the fault of the player, by the way. I think Hearthstone has created intrinsic motivation engagement loops that encourage that. Because for whatever reason, Hearthstone and often corporations in general, they really value engagement metrics. They want to see how many people are logging in every day and every week and every month. And they do things to keep you logging in and to keep you hooked into this system. And of course, there are monetization tactics that do the same. And what happens is people start playing for those reasons instead of because the game is fun. And Hearthstone starts to feel like a job instead of like a video game. I kind of ran through the systems that encourage that, right? I have daily quests. If I take 3 days off Hearthstone or 4 days or whatever, I miss a quest. I have lost gold. I've lost part of my collection. I'm forever behind. I can never get that back, right? If I'm not getting my rewards track progress, that goes away. I got to get to 100. I got to get to 100 or whatever your goal for a rewards track thing is. Achievements, like I got to get that number bigger. I got to get that number bigger. Basically, the game comes about getting all of your numbers to be larger numbers than they were before and less about just playing because of goofy experiences and fun and just enjoyment. And there's nothing wrong if people enjoy those systems, right? Like there's obviously something about the human brain that likes the sense of progress and progression and like making numbers go up feels good. But I think it encourages a lot more commitment and a lot of like forced playing when you maybe don't want to. Like sometimes you feel like you have to play to check off the box as opposed to playing when you're inspired to play. And I wish there was a way around that. Like I wish, it was possible to go back to the old days of Hearthstone where people played because it was fun and you didn't care about those numbers. I mean, there's always like a collection to build up, right? So it's always been a little bit of that. But I think more and more systems keep adding to that pile of boxes to check off as opposed to playing for fun. And when that happens, people get burned out faster. It's kind of a short-term fix to improve engagement, but I worry about 3 years, 5 years. How long can people stay in that system before they finally just like, oh man, I don't care. And the problem is once somebody's really ingrained into that system to make the numbers go up and that extrinsic motivation system that Hearthstone has so many of, once they do break away, once they finally break the cycle, they often feel like they can never get back in because, they missed, like if you take a month off or something or 2 weeks off, whatever it is, it's like, oh man, I missed so much. It's easier and easier to stay out of that forever. It's like, oh, well, I've missed, I can never be a completionist. I missed one card back. I can never get it back. I lost out on so many daily quests. That's going to put me so far behind. And then there's all these excuses to not reconnect and not re-engage in the system. So, you kind of take these sacrifices to build these engagement loops that I think drive people away. So for content creators, right, it's the revenue, it's the income. This is my job. I have to play Hearthstone to put dollars in my bank account, right? For players, it's I have to play Hearthstone, I have to grind, I have to do all this to put gold in my gold total so that I can buy more packs and whatever, right? So it's the same kind of systems, it's just, For content creators, it's magnified to an extent, and that's why I think you see the more extreme takes very often from content creators. And that's why it's so great to see Trump here take a much more chill sort of approach. I quit games that have too many daily things. If I cannot finish daily quests quickly enough, I just quit. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, so by the way, I don't know if there's a fix here. I don't know if there's a good way to fix this. Like, we're already in this system. It's going to feel weird to go backwards to some way, right? But I'm worried it's just kind of a cycle that you can't escape from once it starts. That's why my wife quit Final Fantasy. It's very true, but that makes it feel bad. Yeah, it's just like we're trapped in this loop. The battle pass doesn't help. I feel like I need to get that XP or I will lose out on so much. Yeah, the battle pass is a great example of that as well, where you need to make sure you earn enough levels to make the $20 for the battle pass worth it from a gold standpoint. So you feel again trapped where you have to complete this stuff. Now, here's the really interesting part, right? Here's the crazy part. Battlegrounds avoids all of this. Battlegrounds, and you know, again, we wonder why Battlegrounds is so popular, right? Battlegrounds, it technically has a little, I should say, but for the most part, Battlegrounds dodges all of these problems. Battlegrounds, you don't have any long-term commitments. There's no need to maintain a collection. There's no need to maintain a connection after I had this big DC. To maintain a collection, there's no need to earn gold over time. The only uses for gold are the Battlegrounds perks, which, you know, aren't necessary. The choosing extra heroes, basically. It's certainly a nice to have. If you play Battlegrounds seriously, you're going to want that, but you probably get that gold pretty easily just playing Battlegrounds organically and finishing quests, whatever. You probably don't feel like you have to kind of chase that down or work for it. So Battlegrounds becomes this game where you log in, you play, it's super fun for 20-30 minutes, and then you don't have to worry about it. And if you have 3 hours one day, you log in, play 3 hours. And that's exactly how I find myself playing Battlegrounds. I'll just log in, play a game. It's super fun. I don't have to worry about it. No stress, no worries about building a collection, maintaining any sort of anything. You just log in and play and have fun. And that's what normal Hearthstone lacks. You can't do that in normal Hearthstone. Normal Hearthstone is chores. It's daily chores you have to maintain, a collection you have to maintain. It becomes a lot more about work. And then on the other extreme of that is mercenaries. So like Battlegrounds is like Magical Wonderland, all intrinsic motivation, more or less, 97%. Play for fun, purely intrinsically motivated. Standard Hearthstone is, you know, let's say in the middle, even though it's, I think, pretty far to the extreme there of maintenance and upkeep and work and chores to some extent. And then Mercenaries, I feel like it's like just, you can't even see it. It's so far away. Mercenaries is all of those things amplified by 1,000. Mercenaries is so much work, so much grind, so much upkeep. And although, of course, you can do it free to play, this isn't necessarily a conversation about monetization so much. It's about like work and time you have to put into a game to keep up. And I couldn't do it for Mercenaries, right? I gave up almost immediately. Mercenaries is the extreme version of that. So you have 3 game modes for Hearthstone that are all along this sort of spectrum. Let's call it like chores, right? Like of grind, work, whatever it is. Upkeep is a good word. They're all along this spectrum, and the player base and popularity for each of these game modes seems to represent, like, correlate perfectly to the amount of chores and upkeep they demand. In other words, Battlegrounds is now Hearthstone's most popular game mode because it's super fun and easy to play. You get right in, you do your thing, you're done. Standard is somewhere in the middle. And frankly, I would say it's shrinking because of the burnout that all of these people are experiencing. And then Mercenaries, I don't even know. There's a few people playing Mercenaries, of course. I'm sure it's a healthy game in most metrics. But for Hearthstone's sake, it certainly seems to be in a distant third place from what we can see, at least visibly. So, particularly among the visible vocal part of the player base. So all of these just line up perfectly for this system. Like, the more accessibility and like ease and just jump in and play intrinsically motivated gameplay you have, the more the game mode seems to succeed. So how can Hearthstone sort of separate itself from these systems and make it easier to get into, easier to keep up with, not rely so much on FOMO? I don't have the solutions. I'm just identifying the problems. It's the easy part, right? Like that's the easy thing. It's not my job though, right? I don't have to fix this. I just have to sit here and observe, right? And try to represent player interests, which is what I'm doing here. Trump got it right. He's reasonably taking a break, pulling away from the game. That's healthy. I honestly think more players should do that, but it's so hard because of the systems Hearthstone has in place that make you feel kind of punished or left out when you do take a break. That's what I think we need to fix. So I wanted to draw a contrast there.